here's the top half of the costume. The bra and the corset were designed to kind of blend into one another. I didn't immediately want somebody to look at this and see those two parts. Kind of wanted it to be a little bit of a surprise itself. I always love when a costume is so ornate that you're not sure where one part's going to bend and another part's going to begin and where it's going to come apart. I kind of love that. So I used some of the same materials in making both. And this is what the back of the corset looks like. It had some, I think, ribbon or something for cord when I received it. And I cannot remember now if I bought or if I found that cord in that color. So I relaced it properly with the bunny hair loops at the waist. Put some trim on it, as well as the leaves that go around the armholes. They're up on the shoulders, around the top edges. They're on the bra. They're on the bra straps, and they're on my crown as well that sits on top of my head, because the top of the tree has the leaves in it. Up the front of the corset is this really beautiful, ornate trim I found that I rhinestoned solidly. It was very pretty before. It was like an embroidery, and so I just followed that pattern and rhinestoned it completely, and then trimmed the outside of it with a different trim. And that trim was white to begin with, and then I colored it with fabric marker, starting at red, up to orange, up to yellow, and I continued that trim, both those trims, up onto the bra as well, and then lined them with flowers to kind of camouflage it all together. So it kind of all blends together. This is the skirt on the bottom. We'll get to more details on that a little later. And then the shoes that I wore for this actually belong to a different act. That often happens when you're making new costumes or acts. You start to get kind of a shoe collection going, and you might use the same pair of shoes for more than one act, especially when you're first building things, to make sure that the act is a keeper before you invest in all of the pieces that you want for it. This is a close-up of the crown. I talked about that in my mini costume tour. It's a headband with several layers of the leaves hot glued onto it to turn it into kind of a tiara shape, and that sits on top of my head, and it has some of those big chunky gems as well as smaller rhinestones. Now that I've got the corset off, you can see the bra completely. This is the second layer down. So you can see that fringe on the bra, as well as the trims that were along the front of the corset. You can see the same rhinestoning pattern on the bra cups that was on the corset. And it's all trimmed in floral and flowers. There's a big flower center. There's a few flowers right before the straps that wrap around the neck. I made the strap kind of halter behind the neck. It's usually covered by my hair. I left it bare so that it wasn't hard to find during the act, because nobody wants to fumble with their closures. There's that rhinestoning work I did on the trim, a little closer up for you. I think it turned out really pretty. And then I love this little hint of red under the bust, and those beads kind of remind me of like crab apples from certain trees. So it's a very organic inspired look. And then this bra, I just cut the middle out. I've never done that before, to just make it a little more strappy. And it didn't seem to compromise the integrity of it too much. This is the skirt on the bottom. I love the belt. This is definitely going to be staying. The skirt is going to be replaced by a much more talented seamstress than I am. I'm having a beautiful silk skirt made by another performer, and I will update you folks on that when it happens. Very excited. But this was a belly dance skirt that I purchased off of Amazon, and I kind of chopped it up into different pieces and tried to make it into something. I'm really not great at that. So it works, but it's not great. It's not as good as the top half of the costume, we'll say that. I think I stumbled upon a few design kind of inventions as I was chopping these skirt up that I will probably have my designer put into the final skirt. Like, I love these panels that are kind of like peekaboo-y underneath, and I found that when I took them off, I could actually put them on my arms like this, and they kind of almost turned into like kind of fans. So I definitely want to keep the 4-panel effect, and I want to keep that effect if possible. So this is with those side panels gone. Most panel skirts are 2, a front and a back, but this one's kind of special because it has those 4 panels instead. I want it more like leaves, so I wanted more panels to kind of mimic leaves. So there's a front and a back panel, then after those side panels go, and it's like a swooshy chiffon. My new skirt will be made of silk, which will move much better. You can see the belt has a closure in the back, so I can still take it off after all the panels come off. And once all those panels come off, that is what it looks like. You can see the underwear underneath it, and the belt doesn't stay on by itself very long, and boom, it is gone. It comes off pretty fast once I take the panels off, since it's not serving a purpose anymore. These little ruffles on the legs of my mannequin here actually go on my thighs at the very top where my fishnets come up to. It's a pretty cute look. You can see it in some of the photos that I'll put. And these are the underwear. I've had this pair of DKNY. These panties were nude in color, and I dyed them with a synthetic friendly dye. And since there's 2 different materials on the panties, it came out with 2 different colors, which I kind of, it was unintentional, but I love it. I love where it went. And I rhinestoned it pretty heavily to give it a lot of interest and sparkle. The things that mostly remain on me are brown, like the trunk of a tree. So the shoes, like I mentioned before, are from another act. They're a nude pair of kitten heels by a shoe company called Nina. I really like them, but I wanted something special for this act, so I'm going to be changing them over to these. These are a pair of Danceco shoes that my sister gave me. They are this beautiful brown. They've got these fun designs on the toes. I feel like I could do something with that with rhinestones. They're brown like bark, very earthy. They're not very high of a heel. They'll be easy to walk in. Dancecos are very supportive, which is great because I don't have the best feet in the world. And then these will be going on my arms going forward. I'm going to dye them and see how they turn out. I'm hoping they'll turn out brown, at least a couple 2 tones. Maybe they'll match the panties better. And then I will rhinestone them following that lace pattern in the material, and hopefully it'll mimic branches of the tree. That's what I want to turn my arms into. And the final thing I want to redo for this costume are the pasties. I spent so much time designing and playing and having a great time making the rest of the costume that when it came to the pasties, I kind of had run out of time, and I did something really simple and really easy, but I feel like the costume deserves better. It deserves something clever, beautiful, special, and these pasties just aren't up to par. I want them to be more than that. I don't know if they'll be leaves, if they'll be hearts, I don't know, but we'll see. That's the fun. You get to create along the way, so we'll see. stay tuned for additional parts to this series as I keep working on the costume and finishing the upgrades.